Hello, welcome back. We're on the final signature of our Stamperia Master of Magic, and I have kind of a bonus for you. I've been getting a lot of questions about the dies that I use, so I thought I would cut them out and give you a little bit of feedback on them. Each one of these dies have a cutting platform about 5/8 of an inch. These two here. This third die, its cutting platform is maybe 1/4 of an inch, and we're going to talk about this one here in a minute. So these two dies do not cut away from the paper. So when you cut them, you're going to cut them into your cardstock. So allow for this being the depth, and then you're going to have what's underneath of it, your paper for your design element. Each one of these, the cutting surface from here to this little ridge that's there is 5/8 of an inch. This die here, I had to cut it twice because I wanted to show you what it looks like, what happens if you cut it upside down. If you cut it upside down, this is the only one that is going to actually separate away. So you want to make sure that this is on the top. And then you're going to allow yourself whatever depth that you need beneath this, and I would go to about 3/8 of an inch. So overall, you're going to want to cut this at 3/4 of an inch because you've got the die impression, and then you want a little bit of room in order to tape this on if you did it this way, because you're going to have to cut it. Each one of these I've cut. Each one of these I've had to tape on or glue on because at the last second I decided I wanted to use it. So again, I've left about 1/2 an inch so I can run 3/8 in between here on the designs. And just remember, on this one you're going to have to put the cutting edge to the top, and then it leaves the die impression, and then your work is below, just like what's illustrated here. Now, PinkFresh Studios makes these dies, and they are discontinuing them. So I went on, I picked up what was left in their inventory, and I now have these on my Etsy site. So I'll provide a link for them down below. But what's there is it. The quantity is extremely limited, so if you're interested in them, you're going to need to scoot on over and pick them up. This video is the first video of me demonstrating these, so you will be the first group that will know that these dies are available. But if they're not on my Etsy site, that means they all sold out. Now you can still might be able to find them by Googling online. So it's PinkFresh Studios, and it is their Essentials Slim Cuts, delicate dies. They're standalone cuts. So you might be able to Google that if you don't have them on my Etsy site. All right, so enough said there. Let's get on with this. Okay, so this is our final signature. This was the piece I elected to use. This is what's on the reverse side, is all the gears. But I really love this image. So this is measuring at 8.5 inches across, and it's going to measure 8.5 inches in height. A little bit different than what we've been playing with. It is the very end of our signatures that we're making. So I am going to make a side pocket. Now earlier on I cut this piece out and I told you to save it because I was going to play with it. I just hadn't found the spot for it yet, and so here we are. So I went in and I cut all these out in one continuous cut, and then lots of pop-ups. I don't want them sagging, so, and then this is just going to slide back in here. There is this beautiful ephemera floral that I really have been wanting to use, but there wasn't a spot for it. So I have decided I'm going to come and I'm going to use it right down here. Now, you still have a spot up here for a photo. You still can tuck. This is not going to interfere with you tucking with anything, but it just adds a little splash of color. Now, because of the delicateness of this, when I cut this out, I went ahead and pre-glued it in, because there's actually a split right here where it ran off the edge. Part of the trim was off the edge. So I went ahead and I glued it on. This piece, not counting that edge, is at 2 3/8 of an inch. And then, like I said, I'm just going to put these right back in here. So I'm going to go ahead and start taking these off. I'm going to look to make sure my video is still going. Yes, I've been having some issues with it. I think it's more me than it is my phone. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's pair this up across the bottom, and then we're going to walk it up along the side, and there we go. And then we've got the piece we're going to add. And if you'll bear with me, I've got to take all these off. It's such a mess. Okay, I'm going to lay that down there so I can get these out of the way. Okay. So I'm going to start here at the bottom, and then I'm just going to carefully walk this up and then put it back in. I love it. Now let's see if I can find a place on this that will allow me to pick this off, because if it doesn't, I'm going to glue it. See, it separates, and it just is so annoying. Let's get down here and see, did I get it? I did. This leaf right here is so fragile, you guys, so be very gentle with it. And then this stuff really sticks. And I just want to set it okay. All right, so base page is set. Now we're going to have 2 flaps, and I am going to start you off with those measurements. Put things aside. All right, obviously we are sitting at 8.5 inches in our height, but our width is sitting at 6 inches, and you're going to come in and you're going to score it at a 1/2 inch, and then you're going to score it at 5/8 of an inch. I've rounded the corners rather than do a die. I want to just a little bit different look on this signature. Now I'm bringing my base page all the way up to the 1/2 inch score line, fold it over. And what that does is it puts the hinge that we built, straighten it out, puts it on top of the base page. You can see that here. So we are going to do, I gotta cap off my glue before it dries, so pardon me. And then we're going to play with the other one. It's exactly the same measurement. 8.5 inches in the height, and it is 6 inches across. Again, you have a 1/2 inch score, and then you have a 5/8 of an inch score. And once again, you're going to set this so that that hinge is riding on the top. Now here you've got a little bit of bulk because of what we built underneath of it. So just allow this to fold over. And then I'm going to push back, reinforce my score. And what that allows is for this buildup right here, it sits inside that hinge line. Now I see a little bit of tape showing, but I can deal with that later. All right? So we open this up, carrying with the theme of the cards. There you have a piece in there that has the small card set, and I cut to fit both the left and the right side. And then I made a band that's going to come in right here, and that's our tuck. I had one strip of black and creamy white piece, and I've been wanting to use it, and I thought that right here would be a good place to put it. So this piece right here, this is where I'm going to be a little different with you from here, from end to end. Look at how much of that got cut away. Wow. You see, it was like you've got a little top and you have a little, you're going to cut this at 3/4 of an inch. No, excuse me, 1 3/4. 1 3/4 by 5 3/8. Because see, that's a half, that's a half. Yeah, 1 3/4 by 5 3/8. And then what I did was I ran one real thin strip of tape, sealed off both ends, and I'm going to make a tuck with this right in the middle of the page. So you'll have a tuck on the bottom, and you're going to have a tuck on the top. And I took that tape off prematurely because I don't have this down. Wow, am I ahead of myself or what? Okay, let's get this glued on. I don't have any magnets on these two flaps, so I'm going to glue the paper down to the cardstock. Be mindful of your score mark, that you're not putting this on top of it. Now I'm going to just, with my eyes, I'm just going to center this. Is that straight? Good enough. Now I am going to do just a little bit of trimming here. And now I'm going to glue this in. This little strip is 3/8 of an inch wide. So if you already have these dies, and then your 3/4 inch that you're playing with, you may be using a different die, you may be using a punch, but you still want to make sure that your piece is at least 3/4 of an inch, 1 3/4 of an inch. Each one of these is a 1/2 inch plus an 1/8 here for the guide. And then when you get that all done, I'll use this. Then you still have your tuck on the top and your tuck on the bottom. So we're going to close this and we're going to come over here and we're going to repeat that on this side. Let me just do a dry measurement here, make sure I don't have to trim anything. Line this up. And then we do the same thing. We have now, because it's critical here, this is where I'm starting. If I have any excess, I'm going to cut it off on the edge like I did on the last one. It looks like I'm good to go there. Okay, so that's what we have here. Following this theme, we've got our cards here, but now we're going to shake it up a little bit. You have this piece that's left over. In fact, I think we're down to where there's only 3 sheets of the 22 maxi pad. There's only 3 sheets left. Okay, we're going to glue this in. And again, it's cut to fit. I don't provide measurements on the pattern paper. You cut it to fit what your eye likes to see. I need to trim that some more. I like to see just a little bit of the black on my edges, not big gaps of it. And I'm going to trim this real quick while I'm here. Now for this page, this side, you have a very long strip of this in your scraps. So I took this piece because I know I'm going to cut into it. I cut into it so that this was in the center. I wanted the bellows of the curtain on each side because I'm going to come in here with this ephemera piece backed onto black cardstock, and then I'm going to put it into place. This piece measures 1 3/4 of an inch here, and then again there's the additional 1/2 inch for the decorative die, and then it is 5 1/4 in its length. So 1 3/4, and I'm going to put a little plus sign for this, by 5 1/4. I rounded the corners. So I want to make sure that this is even, and then I'll run it across. I didn't cut it quite long enough, but that's okay. Now, if you want to leave it like this, you can. But I love this piece and I wanted to use it. So it's going to sit here like that's a shelf, and then it's going to come up. And I am only going to glue the bottom half of this. So I'm going to pinch where I want my glue to stop and start. Okay. Now we're going to work on this side here. And again, it's cut to fit. Line this up. Carefully lay it down. And then we're going to do something just a little bit different on this. So we're going to create a pocket over here. This is a scrap piece. And then you have some scrap that has some small cards on it. I cut out 3. I really liked the ones that had this swirly edge, so I cut out 2 of those. And then this club piece, it had the burgundy, I'm not quite sure what to call this, but it had a burgundy design backed in black. So it's going to come in here like this. I want it to kind of be the center a little bit. So then they're going to stack in here like so. So this piece here measured at 1 3/4 of an inch. So 1 3/4 by your 8 1/2. And I am going to come right down here and I'm going to follow my hinge line all the way up. Then we'll glue, and you pick any piece that you want. I really liked this. It just kind of added a color theme that went through and left this open for me to play with. Okay, now we have ourselves a nice tuck here on this side. Let's go ahead and get these added in here. Kind of continuing with that card theme. Okay, so that's done. All right, let's get to our last 2 flaps. The left one is going to be quite large. The right side, not so much. And the right side, I rounded the corners. I put the decorative die on the left side. So this piece is 4 3/8 across by your 8 1/2 in the height. But here you're going to come in, you're going to score it at a 1/2 inch. And then you're going to come and score it at 3/4 of an inch. We want to be able to get a wrap around what we've already bulked in here. So to do that, so that this hinge wraps over the bulk here, we're going to put this right on the edge of that 1/2 inch score line so that it folds over just like it just did. So now when I got it upside down, I'm going to realign so that that is on the 1/2 inch score line. Actually, that's the 3/4 inch score line now that it's upside down. And it should just wrap over nice and easy. So you can see how the hinge is built up here. Okay. And then this one here, being our biggest one, is at 7 3/4 of an inch across by 8 1/2 inches. You're going to come in and score it at a 1/2 inch, and then you're going to score it at 3/4 of an inch. And again, we're going to line up to this 3/4 inch score line. So we're going to take this edge and we're going to line it right up to that 3/4 inch score line so that when this folds over, the hinge that we've created, this gusset that we've created, will take in all the bulk that we've just built. And there you go. Okay, magnets. And because it's going to need to be left over right, we're going to set the magnet here on the left side. Well, that roll is done. Now I need a piece of paper. Whoa, there we go. And I'm gonna just put a dab of tape on the back of it, lift it. Now when I fold this over, I want to make sure that these gussets are straight and that I'm even top to bottom. Okay, there we go. Slide it off. And then I'm going to add some tape here to keep that in place. All right, so now let's work on the inside. So there is a piece in there that had this diamond across the bottom, and it is this piece. Now, of course, there's some that got cut off on the top, but I want this, and then we're going to trim so that this is over here on our right side, and then this is over here on our left side. Now, when we get done with this, there is one of the very last tags. It says magic. It has the fox. We're going to create a tuck over here. So I've backed it onto some cardstock, put a 1/4 inch tape across the bottom, and that's going to be our tuck. You still have room to put a nice small photo here. But over here, so it's not to really interfere with this, but to give this page something, we're going to use an ephemera piece, and it's the one with the rabbit and the hat. Now, in order for this to work, I had to back it onto some black cardstock because I put some tape down here. This is going to become a tuck on this page. You can still put a small photo here. You can journal here. But this is going to be a tuck page. Let's work on the smaller of the two. I do not have a magnet on this side, so I am going to glue this down. I think this is close to being one of the last sheets that I pulled out of the double-sided. Let's get a little glue down here in this corner. Not enough on one end and too much on another. Okay, now having cut and trimmed this, and I have my tape, I'm just going to come up off that bottom a little bit, and there's our tuck. So that side is done. Let's go ahead and let's work on this side. Now, this is a big piece. It's also the piece that has my magnet. So this one I am taping. And if this is, I think I've said it before, if I need to get in there, I want to be able to do that without destroying it. And now that I'm out of paper and it's not in the theme that I have created, I definitely want to make sure I tape this if I ever have to get back in there. And I have. It happens. A little bit of tape on this side. Let's give this a nice good burnish. Okay. I'm going to pull that strip, and then I'm going to pull this strip here. And I'm going to line up. Make sure that I'm not on top of my hinge. Commit that. There's still some fairly large ephemera pieces that are left. So if you want to play with them for some scrapbooking, I don't know if they're conducive to card making, but you can look at them and see. All right, straighten up our rabbit, put it down here, and there we have it. We have a nice tuck. All right, so then you have in your scraps this piece. Hopefully you do. If you don't and you've used it, find a scrap that's going to work. And here is what we played with for the front. You have a 12 by 12 that is the alphabet. So what I did, now when you cut that, you have, if you used this someplace else, I like to have a different balance here. This is the piece that was left. So if you've used that, you could come in here and use the other half of this to cover this, and then you have this theme. I wanted a little bit different look, so this is what I did. And then I cut out the G, mounted it. I put it on that claret, the burgundy cardstock, and then mounted it with some pop-ups so it would stick up. And then I took some Wink Estella and I just covered this G and give this front page a little bit of a spark. So now this is going to get taped. Because I have a magnet here. And again, I rounded the corners on this one. I did not want to lose depth in this because of the die, so I left this plain and just simply rounded the corners. So we'll come in here, we'll line this up. Well, for some reason that end is just goobery, so I'm going to come at it from this side. And then in your scraps, you should find these two hearts. I think they're on the bottom of this. I'm not sure, I don't remember now, but they were bold and center for my eye, so I'm going to create a little pocket for them right down here. So again, these should be somewhere in your scraps. And I just simply cut this. I cut it so that it's a little bit longer. I cut it so that the trim came right at the edge of each of the hearts. Oh, I'm so sorry. This measures at 2 inches by 3 5/8. And then this is just cut to fit. And then our magnet's up here, so it shouldn't interfere. There we go. All right, and we're going to glue this piece down because there's no magnet here to interfere. Now, here's what I did. Perfect. When I demonstrated these, this piece was too wide to go through my cutter. It has an 8.5-inch cutting base. It's a Spellbinders, but it was still too large to run it through with a die. So I had to cut this strip separate. I left myself 1/4 of an inch, and then I glued this on. So this seam that's right here, it will get covered up once I put this down. Sorry, I need to bring this to me just a little bit. Nope, I need to bring this down just a little bit more. Okay. I have this popped up right here, and it's really bugging my eye. Sorry, I have to do a little bit of surgery on this. I didn't realize it was hanging over. Okay, much better. It's not sticking up there. All right, so let's pull all of this off. And we're going to just square this up. Well, get off my finger. Square this up. Set it in there. Now with the Wink of Stella, we have a little bit of sparkle, and we have a nice raised element on this first page. So let me get in here and cap off my glue. So we have a nice tuck here using one of the last large ephemera. We've got ourselves a nice tuck here on this page, a little pocket here, still room to put photos, and then we have a tuck with a spot for a photo, and then you can put a photo here, but you also have your tuck. Then we've got this band that has a bottom and a top, bottom and a top, and you know what do I have? Let me look in my bag of goodies. Oh, look at this. I have a mushroom. I have 2 mushrooms. I'm going to add the last of my mushrooms here as just kind of a decorative little piece. Okay. Sorry about this, kind of a last minute. It needed something. There we go. We have our mushrooms, top and bottom tuck. We have a nice big tuck here with a raised element, and then we've got that beautiful ephemera floral there. All right, let's turn it over. Let's get our big tape out, and let's get to mounting this into the album. While I'm doing this, I really thank you for playing along. I appreciate your subscription to my channel and the kind comments that I get on my creations warm my heart. I am just so glad that a lot of you have a great appreciation for what it takes to make these and the time it takes to make them, and that you enjoy following along. Now I need a 3/8 tape. Where'd it go? Because I'm going to put some strips here. Now because this is a little bit bigger, I think I'm going to run 3 of them because there's some additional weight in here. This will ensure that it stays onto that back panel. All right, let's get this burnished. Now, if you haven't purchased this collection yet, would encourage you to swing by Scrap and Create. They're extremely generous with me and allowing me the ability to create from my heart, and they supply me with a bunch of this stuff. So swing by, share them some love. If you haven't shopped with them before, take a look at their website. They've got great sales going on right now too. All right, so this is going to line up in here like this. I am going to take, which one was it? It was this one. This one off, and these 3 off. Now I did cut this a little bit shorter than the other panels. I just wanted this to balance sitting in here on the very end of this. I'm going to turn it this way so that I can get it even top to bottom. Burnish that tape that's in there right now. Then I'm going to sneak in here and peel the rest of it off. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, I would love it if you would. Oh, my trash can fell over. Oh. There we go. Now, once again, I am going to be pushing back on this hinge before I let the tape commit, because I want to make sure that here at the very end that these stand up nice and straight. So I'm pushing back on it. Now I'll commit the tape down there, and we'll get in here and we'll get the rest of this burnished. And when you're burnishing, don't burnish this way because you'll ruin this. It's either up or away from it. This is a little bit tougher down here because of the design right here. I'm going to sneak in here and burnish that. Okay, there we have it. The last final signature. Yay, you did it. I am happy for you. So again, Scrap and Create has the supplies for this. I do sell this on my Etsy site. It's 50 cents for a yard of it. And the tools that I've showed you are also on my Etsy site. So I do look forward to you visiting with me on the next one, and it will be coming up soon. So until then, bye-bye.